Thank you, everybody. I'm very honored to be here and effectively help kick off a 2-day great summit. So we'll kind of tee up some of the conversation. You're going to get more in depth with some of these other sessions. So I just want to start off and say I'm the type of person that really likes to tackle big challenges and find opportunity. So it's really great to be here for the Future AI Summit at Future Campus and BA University. We share the same type of vision. One other thing I'll share real quickly. I know a lot of people, and I've had a chance to talk to some of you this morning, wondering what you can do with AI. How hard is it to unlock these opportunities? What does this mean for education? I've been working with the United Nations as their AI advisor. If I can get one of the slowest moving, most bureaucratic organizations in the world to effectively create a startup company inside their organization, in the last 5.5 years, complete over 300 AI projects, helping over 1 billion people, imagine what you can do. So with that, let me start with a story. I saw this billboard driving through Los Angeles saying that robots can't take your job if you're retired. So it kind of got me thinking, interesting take, but I know one of the big questions for people are, will AI take my job? How many people are worried about that? So we have a few honest people. The honest truth is, yes, a few jobs will be automated away by AI. We know that new jobs will get created. But I would not worry about the AI taking your job. It's the person using AI that's going to replace you. That's how fundamental these skills and capabilities have actually become. It's not about, okay, how do you create the technology? It's about how do you actually use it? How do you apply those capabilities? And that's something each one of us really needs to learn when it comes to education, the future of work, and the future of business. To give you an example of this, I'm going to pick on the slowest moving industry in the world, legal services. Very conservative, very concerned about liability. For the past 2 years, they've really gone into AI. A lot of it is operations, things like legal research, managing, case rules. But I want to call out a couple of companies that have realized that there's more opportunity than just that. One particular company is called Legalmation. It was started by 3 lawyers, no technical knowledge. They were just looking, and I had a conversation with them, and they're like, what's the big deal with AI? What can we actually do? And I say, look for the tedious work, the admin work people hate doing, a lot of repetition, standardized. There's an opportunity. And they wound up creating an AI associate lawyer. So in the United States, someone wants to sue you, they file a complaint. This AI can read the complaint, generate the corresponding court documents, create a counter complaint, start creating deposition questions, start doing initial case research. So what would take an associate lawyer about 3 years of experience, about 10 to 12 hours to do, the AI does it in 2 minutes. It's a huge boon, right? It's been one of the things, AI has been now a driver, at least in the United States, of switching from billable hours to time and materials. But you might be wondering why there's a chicken on this slide. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, one of Legalmation's clients is Walmart. And Walmart had a complaint. They were sued. A guy, ironically a dentist, bought a chicken, bit into the gizzard, chipped his tooth. So he sued Walmart. Normally Walmart would probably pay, I don't know, 40, 50,000 US dollars just to settle this and not deal with it. Because now they're using this AI system, and the AI is part of its work, it realized that, hey, it's a material fact that when chickens eat, they eat stones. And those stones get stored in the gizzard. So the plaintiff should have been aware of the risk. Walmart's lawyers used that argument in court and won. They didn't have to pay any money. In fact, they got reimbursed for their own legal fees. And we're all looking at this going like, how on earth did the AI know that? Never taught it about chickens or stones. And I went to the top law firms around the world asking the managing partners, would your lawyer have figured this out? And they're like, not unless it's a chicken farmer. That's the power we actually can tap into with artificial intelligence. So I think to put this in perspective, this is, I know, a very busy slide, but it shows the technological innovation of humanity. And two things I just want to quickly point out. One, we figured out how to use fire for cooking about 1 million years ago, but we didn't invent agriculture until about 9,000 BCE. So that's a huge time difference there. Second point, if you look at the graph at the top here, look how much technological innovation we've had in just a few decades. We see an accelerated pace of change here. Well, AI is supercharging this. We're entering a time what we call hyper change, meaning we're going to experience 100 years worth of change in just 10 years. You can see there's a lot of burden now on our educational systems, our institutions, to get people ready, get the future workforce and the current workforce ready for this change. So to share some numbers with you, right, we know by the end of this decade that AI and robotics will add about 15 trillion to the global GDP. We're in a 5-year period now. It's going to end at the end of 2025. Where we know that 85 million jobs worldwide will get supplanted by AI. At the end of 2022, 30% of all work-related tasks were already automated. We anticipate by the end of 2025, at least 50% of all work will be automated. So think about that. Half the work we do today will be done by a machine. It's not all bad news. We know that new jobs will get created. We're expecting about 97 million new jobs to be created because of AI, and that's the trend, new types of work. And we know we're in this 3-year period where we're going to see, 120 million global workers are going to need retraining. That's the current workforce. I think the scary thing is that most of the major metro areas, cities, government organizations are not prepared for this change. It's happening much faster than they anticipated. They thought they had 15, 20 years to get ready. The honest truth is we're lucky if we have 5. And that's why things like this Future AI Summit is really important in trying to address this. So just to tee this off, I want to share 3 things that I hope you keep in mind throughout the next 2 days. First, data is the new oil. Right? AI is not new. It's been around since the 1950s. Why are we seeing such a leapfrog effect? It's because we now have the data to teach the machine. That's the fuel for AI. Each one of us right now is producing about 10 kilobytes per second of data just sitting in here. That's a lot of information that we as people cannot process, but machines can. To give you an example of this, I'll pick on accounting. Apologies to anyone in the field, but H&R Block is a big accounting firm in the United States. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to read the tax code of your local country or municipality. If you have insomnia, it's a good cure. But I actually worked with H&R Block to create an AI system to do tax returns. So the great thing about AI, it remembers everything it sees, does, hears, reads. And so it knows everything about the tax code. We realized that about 70% of Americans' tax returns are pretty similar, so that was the right opportunity. So there's still 30% that can be done by humans, but the remaining can actually be done by a machine. And what we found is the people that got their return done by AI, their average return was higher by about $236 US. We started wondering about that. It's like, why is it finding more tax deductions and credits? It's because it knew every item in the tax code. We'd find these little things like, well, you actually earned a $10 tax credit because you did this. So the AI was taking the information, asking questions of the client, and as a result, that's what we were actually able to do. So where are we going then with AI and all this data? These are the top use cases. I'm sure some of these are very familiar to you: marketing, HR, supply chain logistics. But this is just really the tip of the iceberg. We're kind of at this beginning of this AI wave. However, this takes me to point number 2. We're used to computers being about automation, doing something faster, cheaper, less errors. We're only tapping into 20-30% of AI's value as a result. AI is the 3rd generation of computing. It comes with whole new capabilities that many of us are not used to. And as a result, we're not taking full advantage of the value there. To really unlock that opportunity, we need to find a new way of actually performing the work. That means changing the process, changing the system. And that's difficult for a lot of us because in effect, we're trying to fix something that's not broken. And so we struggle with that. Now, I know innovation is a word that gets thrown out a lot. So I'm going to play a short video. This is work that I'm doing with the University of Utah. There's not much audio, so don't worry about that, but just watch what this gentleman is doing. You probably noticed that he seems to be controlling that robotic arm with his mind. And in effect, that's kind of what he is doing. This is not Elon Musk's Neuralink, right? We did not drill a hole into his head, right? But what we know is that if you're born without a limb or you lose a limb in an accident, the brain can still send signals like a phantom hand. Well, us technologists, our first reaction is, great, let's drill a hole in the head, put a chip in there, decode the brainwaves. However, AI can only do what we've taught it to do. We don't actually understand the brain well enough to do that. And this is really where the value and the innovation comes with AI, is we have to work with domain experts. It's about how we do things that's more important. So we worked with doctors, clinical researchers, and what they helped us understand is when the brain sends that signal to the phantom hand, it triggers a process in our body. And part of that process is muscle and tendon motion. So if you look above his right elbow, you see this black band? That's an Internet of Things, IoT sensor array designed to capture that muscle and tendon motion. That we can teach to an AI. So the sensor captures it, AI translates it, replicates the motion into the arm. So this video is from a few years ago. So you make a fist, all these things. Today, he's drinking coffee with it, he's playing tennis, he's doing all these things. That's how far we've come. Will we ever get to 100% mobility? Probably not, but we could restore a fair amount. But that's what I mean by innovation with AI. We found a different way of doing the work rather than just automating the way we already knew. Another example, well, we can teach AI things like psychology. So if you think about things like marketing, right, we're used to demographics, organizing people by gender, age, occupation, household income. But with AI, we've pioneered a whole new area that we call psychographics. Right? AI can look at you and actually, based on what you say and what you do, decipher you across your 56 personality traits. And from that, infer what your hobbies are, your interests, all these things. You couple that with the science of neurolinguistics. So we've actually been able to teach AI the science of language. It's like a fingerprint for each one of us. So this is actually real output. These guys were nice enough to share this. What they've done is, this is a group of neurolinguistics using AI, and they're having a conversation, but you can see how each one of them learns, their style, what they value. If you want to engage them, what are the things to focus on? They'll even coach you on what words to use to help them understand or persuade them. So you combine these two things together, right? We now know how to engage each person by speaking their language, by connecting with them through the channels they prefer and using the right incentives or rewards. We started this work to actually help depressed and suicidal teenagers. So we can actually help connect with them, create a safe space, hopefully accelerate their treatment process. What we learned, it's also a great marketing tool, right? And marketers are using this, but effectively what we've created is an AI communication coach, right? We're now actually using this to help spouses better communicate with each other and reduce the amount of tension and fighting, to help communicate between parent and child, teacher and student. And this, again, is just the tip of the iceberg when we're coming to innovation. If you look at the history of computers, first generation, calculators, second generation, what most of us are used to, programming, right? We run software. Third generation, original computers, like when I worked on IBM Watson, was querying. I mean, that was back in 2011, right? We would basically ask a question or ask the AI to do something and it would do with it. We now live in an age of generative AI, which is around prompt engineering. So we are providing parameters and letting the AI just figure everything out. So I have a very good friend. She's a famous musician. She's been using generative AI for a few years now. It used to take her 12 days to write a new song. She just told me she wrote 51 songs in 2 days, right? Her prompts are over 500 words long. She's like, I want to use these 4 notes, this type of harmony, this type of melody, right? And gets it created. And she's like, you know, that doesn't sound good as a rock song. Let's try reggae. Not quite there, let's try punk rock. So it gives her more chance to experiment. But we're moving now into the next generation of even Gen AI, which is human-free generation. We're almost at a point like, you know, we're talking about basketball. You can have an AI system watch the basketball game. If it sees something that it thinks is a highlight play, it'll take every camera angle available, mix it together, add music, other special effects, and post a highlight reel clip to social media, to the major sports websites, and do it within 4 seconds of the highlight actually happening, that play, without any human prompting to do that. That's what we're on the cusp of right now. Third thing, I hope you remember and take away, is hybrid intelligence. This is not about human versus machine. This is about human using machine. While machines are good at things like processing lots of data, we as people are actually very good at things, much better than AI is at a lot of things. That's first of a kind situation. That's creative thinking. It's about things that require more kind of intuition or instinct to actually do. And so that's really the future of work, is hybrid intelligence. How do we augment our own human capabilities with machine abilities? So to give you an example of this, I want to take us back to 2016 for a second here. I'm going to play a video. Fox Studios came to me and said, we have this AI horror movie coming out. Can we do something with you? And I'm like, that's not really my stick. But we talked about it, and I said, what if my colleagues and I came in, we had AI watch the movie, had Watson watch the movie, and create a movie trailer for you? They're like, it can do that? I'm like, yeah. So this is a brief video showing how we actually did that.
As human beings, we're very quick to judge the mood of an individual. Possibly an AI over time might be able to develop those same instincts.
So we thought, let's send Watson to film school.
Morgan was our little breakthrough. It exceeded our wildest expectations.
Here you have the whole of the Morgan movie, and you can see where action is taking place at the different moment of the movie. And this is how Watson actually extracted salient moments from Morgan, which we then proposed for making the trailer.
Watson was able to model the scenes visually to determine, was a scene scary? Was it a tender moment? Was there sadness or happiness?
Watson is the tool that's helping arrange the visuals, but it still needs the human element. So then I could come in and just supervise the creative aspect of it.
I don't think AI is any value until it does start to understand and calibrate those emotions for itself.
I think that's asking a deeper question. Will computers be able to create art? Can they create? Period. It's still very difficult to think of how a computer might be capable of original thought. something that's essential in creativity.
That's how we did it. We were actually looking at emotional sentiment. So imagine that a machine is trying to pick up emotions it doesn't feel. Now, Fox Studios had a specific demographic they were targeting for this movie. Can't share that, unfortunately, but we designed this trailer for that group. And the movie, my apologies to Fox Studios, not very good. But they overperformed with that target segment by a factor of 3. They got 3 times more revenue than they were predicting. If you're curious about the trailer, it is still on YouTube to check it out, but that's the power with AI. It's the power of hybrid intelligence. But that was 2016. That work actually led us down the path of developing a field that we now call artificial empathy, where now AI agents, AI chatbots, all these other things, they're looking at your emotional state and they're dynamically changing how they interact with you based upon that to try and create a more natural conversation. So if you're happy, the AI might joke around with you, but if you suddenly turn angry, they'll try and soothe you down. And this has been a big boon, not just for customer service or mental health, but across the board now, this is becoming the norm. This is what a lot of customers are expecting. We're starting to see this now with some programs. We have like AI onboarding agents for universities, where now we're seeing the high school students when they come in, they're looking for the same level of empathy from these like chatbots. Now, come to today, 2024, what are we doing with hybrid intelligence? Well, I apologize if I'm grossing you out. This is a smart toilet, right? As human beings, we all produce waste. And we produce waste, hopefully, frequently on a daily basis. This toilet is designed with a bunch of IoT sensors to capture data from that waste. And AI actually analyzes it, right? And it's just basically looking at your health. So it creates a very rigorous baseline of your health. And because it's looking at biomarkers, if there's even a slight deviation, a deviation that we cannot perceive as humans, the AI notices it. And so we can do very early detection on the onset of illness and disease. That's important because we know the earlier we can actually catch something, the more likely we can actually successfully treat it. And AI already knows things like genomics and all these things. And so feeding this information to doctors, helping the doctors do a more thorough analysis on each one of us, precision medicine, has become a reality thanks to AI and the hybrid approach, hybrid intelligence. Now, I know I've been talking about a lot of good things. I don't want to sugarcoat it, and you'll hear a lot of great sessions on some of these things. There are many challenges in using AI. First and foremost, you have to have the data. You have to have enough data to teach the machine, and it has to be well robust, like good data to actually use. And this is where we struggle. What's the right data? Because for a machine to learn a new language, it has to hear about 100 million words and phrases. However, a human child only needs to hear 10 million words and phrases to learn and master the language. So it's not the volume of data that's important. There's certain words and phrases that trigger that learning. We just don't understand what those things are. So having the data is important, the right data, but that leads us to the second thing is the subject matter expertise, the training. We have to be able to train the machine properly. It means human teachers understand how we're doing things. If they miss something, if they have poor decision-making rules, there's a situation they didn't anticipate, the AI is not going to react very well. So you have to commit the right people and the right approach to teaching the machine. And then lastly, no shock, bias. We say all data is biased. So our hope of stripping out bias from AI is next to impossible. What we can do is try and limit how much bias there is. And that means diverse teams, diverse perspectives, diverse thoughts, right? Recognizing that there's inherent bias in here, particularly unconscious or implicit bias. In my work with the United Nations, they are really big about trying to have AI robot judges. right? They would think it will help alleviate backlog, speed time for justice, reduce corruption in the system. There's a lot of data there, but is there bias in our judicial data? Yes. And so we actually studied the US court system, reviewed 70 years worth of cases. You know what the biggest bias we found was? How hungry the judge is. The more hungry they were, the more strict they were with their sentencings and ruling. So if you're ever in court, do it right after breakfast or lunch. But how do you strip that bias out of the data? You know, we started thinking about it, it's like, if the data is time-stamped, can we make certain accounting for, you know, how hungry they are? But everyone has a different metabolism, right? There's no way to capture, you know, blood sugar levels easily for this. The other thing is we don't know if that judge ate breakfast or they had a big lunch or a small lunch. So it's something we unfortunately just have to live with and recognize that this particular implicit bias, there's not a whole lot we can actually do about it unless we start putting monitors on everybody and capturing that data. So the three things, again, just to take away, these are the best practices. Data is the new oil. So make sure you're valuing the right data just over big data. And we live in a time of synthetic data, which is fake data. It's not real data, but it's create a look like real data. That's been a big benefit, especially in healthcare and medical imaging, to create those things. Second, innovation over automation. So just don't think about replicating what we're doing today. Take the time and think, is there a better way of doing this? And for those of you that are actually students, you have a big advantage over people like myself, right? I'm very used to doing things a certain way. You bring a fresh perspective, that fresh set of eyes, leverage that. That's your superpower. You're going to be the ones to discover these innovations. And then third, it's about hybrid intelligence. So again, it's not human versus machine. It's us working together. It's us as people just using this as a tool to augment our own capabilities. And we can actually do things we never thought possible. For the longest time, I always heard that, well, you can't teach, you know, essential or soft skills like communication and collaboration or negotiation. You can't teach creative thinking, right? Something just has to click for people. Now, I've been working with cognitive science and things like that, and we've learned we can actually use AI, and we've done this now, to teach these skill sets. We can teach people to be better creative thinkers. We've helped people with mental health issues actually learn coping skills and build their resilience. We can actually clone expertise. You think about the best teacher, the best employee, you don't have to train everyone on a straight guy. You can actually clone their ability and improve everybody as a result in your organization. So these are the three things. Data is the new oil, innovation over automation, and hybrid intelligence. So if nothing else, I hope you keep these three things in mind for the next 2 days with all these great sessions. I know that everyone always asks, like, are there resources out there? How can I learn more? How can I stay the latest? These are all links. Please take a photo. I know we don't have Q&A. I'll be hanging around for the next 2 days, but if you have questions, there is a contact form on my website. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here as a resource to help all of you, so please let me know. And one last ask, if you wouldn't mind taking 30 seconds, that's a QR code. I always want to get feedback about my talks and understand how I can make them better, more meaningful for all of you. So you can scan that and just take 30 seconds to fill it out. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a fantastic summit.